What is going on, everybody? I hope you are all having a great day. So this is a time lapse of a job I just did recently, and this is a detached garage, and then the house, and then also the driveway. So basically, I'm just downstreaming a couple sides of the garage and the house, and I run into a problem, which is that this house had horrible water pressure, so I ran out of water in my tank. And so that right there is when it happened, and I just sprayed a bunch of chemical on. So I had to think quick. I grabbed a hose and I started kind of rinsing all the chemical off. And yeah, so basically, here in a second, I took a video on the job site of what I was thinking. So I'll go ahead and play that for you guys here. Okay, guys, so kind of an unfortunate situation. So basically, this house has absolutely horrible water pressure, like one of probably the worst I've ever seen. And so, I'm gonna have to let my tank fill up quite a bit. I think I'm gonna switch to an XJet because it's gonna use a little less water than downstreaming. But yeah, that's unfortunate. So I'd already sprayed bleach on just all the sides you saw, and I didn't have enough water pressure to rinse it off since my tank wasn't full. And so I went ahead and took the hose and just kind of rinsed everything off just so it's not sitting there. Now, this could be very bad, but thankfully I've got a couple things working for me. First of all, this is not a hot mix at all. It's 1% or lower, and so it's probably okay. Secondly, the sun's not out. Where you'd have a problem is if it sits on and the sun bakes it, but that's not a problem. And then also, it's in the shade. And so it's not gonna dry super quickly. And I was able to get the hose off and at least rinse it a little bit. I'm gonna let that water pressure build up just a little bit in the tank. I'm gonna continue rinsing, and then for the rest of the house, I'm gonna switch to an XJet just so I'm using quite a bit less water. So that's pretty much the update, and yeah. So thankfully this wasn't really a big problem, but it definitely could have been. Like I said, if it was super hot and that SH was just staying on there and baking into that siding, it could have oxidized it or changed colors or done all sorts of weird stuff. And so thankfully I was able to get that taken care of just fine. But water pressure is something you really got to look out for. If I didn't have a buffer tank and say I even had a 4-gallon-a-minute machine, I don't think in fact, I know for sure that that water pressure coming from this house would not have fed that 4-gallon-a-minute machine. And so at one time, if I had come here, because I didn't used to have a buffer tank and I used to run 4 gallons a minute, I wouldn't have been able to do this house. Now, I always kept my 2.5 gallon a minute machine as a backup in my truck. And so I probably would have used that one instead, and it probably would have had enough water to feed it. And so that's one of those things to consider if you're going to get a 4-gallon-a-minute machine, is that some houses aren't going to be able to feed it. And so that's why it's not always a bad idea to start with a 2.5 gallon. But here is the before of the siding. You can see some black mold, mildew on there, and I'm basically just using my XJet to hit it with about a 1.25% SH mix. And then here in a second, you can see after I rinse it, how the siding looks, and all that stuff comes off pretty easily. And so then I'm just moving on to the other side of the house. All right, so another potential problem I ran into in this house is the front porch had a deck with unstained and unpainted wood. And so even though the house mix is only like a 1% SH mix, that's still enough to bleach up the wood. And basically, like where the SH will hit it, it'll just have a little white spot on that wood, and there'll be a bunch of spots and it'll look really bad. And so what I did, and what you guys need to do anytime you come across unstained or unpainted wood, or really just any wood in general, it's not a bad idea to just absolutely soak it with water beforehand. And then the second you spray that SH on the house, immediately start rinsing the wood off, but even before you rinse the siding. And that way you're going to prevent the SH doing any damage and spotting up the wood and making it look bad. So now I'm moving on to the front walkway and driveway, and make sure to stick around till the end to see the transformation, because it was pretty dirty. And so I'm using my surface cleaner. Now, I don't honestly think I have the right tips on for the surface cleaner, and normally it's not really a problem. But it was in this driveway because it was so dirty. And so I have a 5.5 gallon a minute machine, and the tips are probably for like a 4 gallon a minute machine. And so it's restricting flow a little bit. So if you have a surface cleaner and you feel like you're not getting the right amount of flow or the right amount of pressure, there are charts you can look up online that will basically explain what tips you need to put into your surface cleaner. But as you can see, it's still getting the job done pretty well. Now, it actually left a lot of lines, and in some areas it still looked kind of dirty. You could see the customer coming out and wanted to give it a shot, but it still looked kind of dirty. And so at one time I kind of would have panicked, but now I know all I have to do is post-treat it with about 3% SH. So anytime you see a bunch of lines showing up after you surface clean, or maybe it didn't get it 100%, don't worry, just throw like a 3% SH mix on there. As you can see, I'm doing it right here with an X-Jet, and it'll clear it all up. And yeah, honestly, I would recommend post-treating even if it does look fine afterwards, because when it grows back, it's going to grow back, and basically you're going to be able to see the where you surface clean, and it's not going to look good. And if a competitor comes and ends up giving them a bid next time, they're going to say, hey, this guy didn't post treat, that's why it came back so quick. I can tell because I can see the lines that his pressure washer made. And again, sometimes they're not visible until the organic growth starts growing back. But that's just my 2 cents. And so here's the before and here is the after. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.